Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. My dad was and still is an avid hunter, and I grew up going hunting and being around firearms. And one of the things that I learned growing up being around firearms is that you always treated guns with respect. You always treated a gun as though it was loaded. That means that you were very careful where you pointed the barrel of the gun. You made sure the safety was on. You were very careful in the way that you held the gun as you were walking through the woods. You were also careful in how you placed the gun in the truck so as to, uh, be cautionary against it maybe accidentally going off or something like that. And even at the house, being careful where you stored it and things like that. And just treating a gun with a lot of respect because you know that a gun is very powerful and that a gun is very deadly. And so you got to be very careful in the way that you handle a gun. And I think that attitude ought to carry over when it comes to our tongue, when it comes to our mouths, because we have to recognize that our mouths can be very deadly in a sense. In other words, the words that we speak can kill a person's spirit. The words that we speak can kill a relationship. The words that we speak can kill our influence with people. The words that we speak can be very, very deadly. And so it ought to be that we treat our mouths the same way that we would treat a gun. That is, always treat your mouth like it's loaded. That is, always treat your mouth in such a way that you realize that it could do damage, it could do harm. We see this in our reading today in Proverbs chapter 10, in verse 19, where it says, "When there are many words, transgression is unavoidable." So there we're taught that if you talk a lot, if you're very talkative, and words are constantly spewing out of your mouth all the time, and you always feel that pressure to be speaking, to fill in the silence with words, that it's pretty much a given that transgression is unavoidable. And that just has to do with the fact that the tongue is a very dangerous thing and that we have to be very careful. It's kind of like if you were to just go shooting a gun just randomly all the time. Eventually it's going to hit something and cause some damage and perhaps even injure someone or kill something. So we should be very careful with our mouths. James is very famous for speaking about the tongue in this way in James chapter 3. He talks about the tongue here, and he says in verse 2, he says, "For we all stumble in many ways. If anyone does not stumble in what he says, he is a perfect man, able to bridle the whole body as well." So if you can perfectly use your tongue, then you're just a perfect person. You can bridle your whole body. He goes on to say, "Now if we put bits in the horse's mouth so that they may obey us, we direct their entire body as well. Look at the ships also, though they are so great and are driven by strong winds, are still directed by a very small rudder, wherever the inclination of the pilot desires. So also the tongue is a small part of the body, and yet boasts great things." So the mouth isn't a very big part of a person's body, but it has a big impact, and it boasts great things, he says. He says, "See how great a forest is set aflame by such a small fire. All it takes is one or two words. And those one or two words start a little flame and perhaps gets into the minds and the heart of another person who may speak 4 or 5 words. And then that gets passed on. And before you know it, a lot of damage takes place just because perhaps we spoke a few words that were out of place." He says in verse 6, "And the tongue is a fire, the very world of iniquity. The tongue is set among our members as that which defiles the entire body, and sets on fire the course of our life, and is set on fire by hell." Yeah, you can see that James doesn't think too highly of the tongue, and he recognizes how dangerous the tongue can be. And he goes on to talk about it some more there in that chapter, but that's enough of it for us to realize how dangerous our mouths can be, our tongues can be. And so let's be very careful with our mouths today. Let's be very careful. Maybe today we could even practice the spiritual discipline of silence and just kind of spend today not talking so much, but listening to nature, to the wind as it blows through the trees, listening to perhaps the sounds of traffic on the highway, listening to children as they walk along in the grocery store, listen to our neighbors and the stories that they have to tell, listen to our family members and how they're feeling, and just keep our mouths shut for a little while and open up our ears to what's around us. It'll make us more aware of our surroundings and more aware of the condition of other people. And it also keep us from doing any damage with our mouths. As long as our mouths are shut, they can't really do a whole lot of damage. And so I would encourage all of us to kind of practice silence today. See how long you can go without having to assert your opinion, your idea, or have to give your side of the story. And just turn an ear to listen to what other people have to say and listen to the sounds of life and take in life through our ears and see if we don't gain something from that. I think that'd be a good practice for us all to participate in today. So these are some things we can think about and reflect on as we do our reading today. With that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.